Hello everyone, my name is Riley Fritz and I am a sneaker reseller and my brand or company that I've run is called Sneakerhead Ambition. I've been reselling now for about 5 years. There's definitely been a lot of change in how I've gone about just reselling sneakers in general. So today I'm just going to kind of go over a broad-based review of what I do. I'm going to go over the different categories and types of shoes or different ways to source shoes that you can go about using no matter where you are. So whether you have a lot of, you're in a big metropolitan area and you have a lot of stores, I have options for that work. And if you are in rural parts of the country where you don't have as many stores and as access to quite as many options from a store perspective, I also have just ways of sourcing that are online, that are not from big box stores like Foot Locker, Nike, Adidas, places like that. I'm also going to cover how to go about selling these, since obviously it's great to get shoes, but if you can't really move them quickly, or if you don't have the right avenues and sales platforms to make those sales go quickly, you can obviously get stuck with inventory, and I know that that's not specific to shoes. I'm sure you'll hear people talk about that a lot over today and the next couple days. And then I'm going to go over just some ways, some things that I've learned that I would definitely want to know when I was starting off, and also how I go about just scaling my business and how I plan to scale my business with just automation tools, assistants, and different resources like that. So I'm going to start off in a couple minutes just going over how I got into reselling and just go over my general progression through it, since it's obviously changed a lot over the past 5 years. That being that it's late 2022, the past 5 years have probably been one of the biggest times of change we've all ever gone through. So obviously the business model has altered along the way, while the goal and the main thing I'm selling has remained shoes. So I'll start off now with just my general kind of origin story, how I got into this, and then I will start breaking it down again by just where I get shoes from, how to go about selling them, and how to scale your business. All right, so how did I really get started on this, right? I think we all may fall into this different ways, right? Somebody might tell us, we might see a show, whatever the case may be. This was about late 2018, and myself and my girlfriend, we really tried to work to invest a lot of our money. So we had kind of come up with the idea after watching Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. Some of you may love him, some of you might think he's a little toxic, crazy, but regardless, we were watching his episodes called Trash Talk, basically where he would go to yard sales on a weekend. And again, mind you that this man has plenty of money. He does not need to be flipping toy dolls at yard sales to make money. But regardless, he's very big on kind of the entrepreneurial grind mindset, right? And he was just kind of showing that hey, if you are really struggling to make money, or you want to make extra money, or you want to start a side hustle, this is a pretty easy way to do it. So, we kind of watched him. I watched a couple episodes of it, and I think that this was about August, September of 2018. And my girlfriend and I were like, hey, let's try to do this. Let's try to generate like $10,000 by the end of the year to just invest, and let's just, have fun with it and see what we can do. We did not hit $10,000, but we did hit like $9,800. And I quickly kind of realized while we were doing that, and at the time I was still a teacher, I realized I can make more money doing this than I was teaching, just considering the fact too that this $10,000 was like the first time we'd ever done this, right? It's not like we were seasoned resellers knowing what we were looking for. So we, went out, estate sales, yard sales, kind of learned what we were looking for, and just sold a lot of different things, right? So we sold books, we sold toys, we sold video games, we sold bikes, right? We sold racing bikes, we sold clothes, we sold stereo systems, right? We sold, what else is in there? What are some other things? I said video games, right? Toys, I said that, hats, right? Under sneakers, right? We kind of got into that, but basically sold anything that we could find that, we would make money or could make money off of. So we almost got to that. And around then, at the end of that year, right, we were doing this pretty much every weekend. I kind of realized that if I'm just doing this a couple hours a weekend, I'm making more money than I'm making teaching, right? I'm obviously hadn't scaled that up to that point yet, but regardless, right? At the new year, going into my first full year, what I didn't know at the time, but would be the first full year of reselling sneakers, I started to just watch a lot of content online. So again, YouTube, I will mention many times in this. I have my own channel now, but That is an invaluable resource to any of you who are looking to resell sneakers or anything for that matter, right? I think that a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be applicable to pretty much anything you sell. So during that first year, right, I started to watch a lot more content on just how to sell shoes, and kind of came across the fact that, you know, I was seeing a lot of people be able to go to discount stores like Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat Factory, and just come out of there with hauls of shoes that they were getting for a very cheap price and able to flip for at least double what they got it from. That was pretty much the only store that we were sourcing from at that point, or stores, right? We had started kind of slowed down on the yard sales and estate sales just because of the fact that we were really looking to scale. And obviously I can't plan a yard sale for everyone every day. So I'd fallen into the discount stores, right? Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat Factory. And we were doing pretty good sales numbers, right, with just those, right? So for probably the first 3, 4, 5 months of that year, this would be 2019, it was mostly all discount stores, right? About halfway through the year, right, you'll kind of see that the next logical progression for this would be Nike outlets, all right, and Nike clearance stores. That, again, 2019's first full year doing this was definitely made up of all discount stores and Nike outlets, all right? That first full year, we did a little over $100,000 in sales. So that was obviously a massive success coming from like, hey, we're just gonna, you know, try to sell whatever we can find at yard sales and estate sales. People probably laugh, not even probably, people thinking, what are y'all doing, right? Like, why are you at yard sales? But we made a good amount of money for it. So again, just the progression, right? We've got the first full year, I'm mostly just going to discount stores and outlets. So again, you don't need, I'm gonna get into this, and if any of you have ever watched my content, some of the ways that I get sneakers now is far from where we started, right? So 2020 comes along, right? So we've been going hard at the outlets and the discount stores for about a year, and 2020 hits, right? And we start off the year obviously doing the same thing. So we're going through that, right? We've been going heavily to these outlets. We would go to stores, we'd come back. At the time there were less buying limits. We'd go to a store 5-6 times a week and pick up 30-40 pairs of shoes every single time. So if you think that like, what am I gonna find at an outlet? You can find a lot at an outlet. Again, if you are knowledgeable about what you're looking for, the price point you should be finding, and you're able to sell them. Again, we'll get into that, but you have sources to sell. Obviously in 2020, right, things changed. Halfway through 2019, right, I had heard before about sneaker bots, right? Like these things that you would run online. You would get a lot, if you ran them correctly, you would use the software and it would allow you to get more than one pair of a sneaker that say is a, you know, Nike Air Jordan 1, where they've got bot protection and all this stuff on the site where if you try to check out more than one, they're gonna cancel your orders. Bots allow you to circumvent that issue, and if you are able to do it correctly, you get multiple pairs of a shoe that is very valuable to the same address. Some people getting to the point where I am now, where you can get 40, 50, 60 pairs on a single drop, which is obviously a long way away from just going to a yard sale. But through 2019, I purchased the first one of those, and I kind of viewed it as a research and development, right? I was putting money into this bot that I didn't have a clue how to use, but I would learn to use it over the year and just try to get better at it and try to just have more avenues for myself to get shoes through the business. So that was tough, right? I was working, I was a teacher still, and I was a personal trainer, and I was working 40, 50 hours at this business. So I was easily clocking 100 hours a week that year and the following 2 years. So I didn't have that much time to work on the botting. By the end of 2019, I had hit like a couple pairs, but remember, this is costing a couple $100 a month to not really make any money. Again, I viewed it as research and development. I'll get it there eventually. That kind of state of affairs continued until 2020. Got to 2020, we all know what happened in March of that year. Obviously the stores closed. Right now, I still had a lot of inventory at the time. I think I had about 500 shoes in inventory. So that wasn't necessarily the biggest deal. It's not like we couldn't sell shoes still. But what I will say is that time where I didn't have to go to work for a while and it was working remotely, I put a lot of time and effort into learning how to bot. In that year, I think about 10, 20% of the profits for the business were from botting. So it went from being a non-factor to being a major factor in our sales. 2021, it turned more into about 50-50. And at this point, that's kind of where we are at right now. I still do a lot of discount stores. I still do a lot of Nike outlets. I get shoes online that aren't botting shoes, but in bulk SKUs, so I can just get a bunch of a shoe, I'm sure a lot of you know, called like Air Force Ones, right? I can get a lot of those. That's not like a hyped or like rare pair, but you can get those online. And you also have botting, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about getting sneakers. That might have been a little wordy, but I wanted you all to kind of know that a lot of people see my channels now and they're like, okay, well, this person just has all these bots and that's all they do. And that's the stuff that I'm really putting out there to help people. But again, it's not like that's the only way I get shoes, right? There, over half the business is still from outlets, discount stores, foot stores. I'll go over that. But I'm just trying to kind of articulate that there's a clear kind of growth of the ways that I was getting shoes. And I just want that to be known that, like, if you don't have great access or money for a bot, it doesn't matter. You can go to discount stores, right? If there's no Nike, if there's like one Nike outlet, right? You can go to other discount stores, you can go to foot stores. If there aren't stores, right, you could maybe go the route of looking for what they call bricks online at like Nike.com or something like that. It's basically just online arbitrage. And then something else that I was doing the first year that I didn't quite mention was used shoes. It's not something that I've gone heavily into. It's definitely the type of sourcing that I do the least. But during that first year, we definitely sold some used shoes. And I know people that sell only used shoes and do well into the six figures in sales every single year. So just wanted to kind of give a backstory on where I came from a reselling perspective. At this point, I do this full time. I quit my teaching job last year, about right now, so about a year ago. So I just wanted to kind of articulate how I got into this, that there was a clear kind of growth trajectory for what I did, and that I do have a good amount of knowledge on just pretty much every way to get shoes in this, no matter where you're from. So just wanted to give that little backstory. I'm now going to just go into the different types of ways to get shoes, and I'm going to break them down a little more in depth. If you are looking for just kind of sales numbers, like I said, the first couple months we did about 10,000. The second year we did about a little over 100,000 in sales, at about like a 30% profit margin. And then the past couple years, or the third year was a little over 200, and then the past year was around 400,000 in sales. So we've moved not well over, but including this year that we're currently in, moved over $1 million worth of pairs. I believe it's over 7,000 total pairs at this point. So this isn't a small operation by any means. I know that sometimes people are like, well, how many pairs of shoes could you get from an outlet or like online? And it's a lot if you really put in the time and know where to look. So I'll get into breaking that down a little more now, but just a little bit about myself and kind of how I got to this point. And like I said, we'll break those categories down now so that you know best what to kind of go about based on your current situation and where you live. So real quick before we get started, I do just want to differentiate. I think that there are things that people have as a competitive advantage when they are reselling. So a couple things before we break down the different ways to source. I do think it really matters about your product knowledge. Now, do you need to know sneakers in and out and all the history and everything to make money? No. Will you make more money the more you know about the products you're buying? Absolutely, all right? The amount of time, number two, you spend sourcing matters, right? I am very effective at going into these stores and quickly being able to pick out what is there because I'm familiar with their offerings, I'm familiar with their price points, I'm familiar with the selling price points on all the different platforms because that's all I do, right? If you spend an hour a week doing this, you're not gonna learn much. All right, time spent watching material like this. That is my third one, right? I can't tell you how many hours I spent in, like when I was listing those video games and toys and stuff from the estate sales, how many hours I spent just watching people go to Ross and Marshalls and TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat Factory. That's how I learned, all right? So that's definitely a big deal. I think that another massive one, and even if you're not comfortable with it, you need to network, right? Even if you are an introvert, you need to go into these stores and make friends and be friendly with the staff and the employees. That matters, right? And then finally, I think a big one too is just your willingness to document, right? One of the biggest mistakes that I made in this was not starting a channel at the very beginning, right? You don't need to have mastered anything to document your journey. I think it's a little sketchy that there are a lot of people in these spaces now who just quite frankly are preaching that they're a master without ever having done any of it. So just put yourself out there, right? And be honest. I think that if you go about it saying, hey, I've started flipping sneakers, here's what I'm doing, these are the mistakes I've made, how are y'all doing? That's not being a fraud, right? I would document, because you're going to network better and you're going to learn more, and it's just going to give you better results. Does it take time? Yes. But are the relationships and things that you learn from the connections you make worth it? Absolutely. All right, so now we're going to get into the different ways to source shoes. Again, I want to stress that I feel that it is a good idea to use a mix of these, because especially if you do this full time, you can fill your time every day with getting shoes. You need to learn where to go, but you can do it. And then I'm going to go over just kind of a breakdown for each one of these stores. So the stores I'm going to be going over are going to be, or types of sourcing I'm going to be going over, are going to be used shoes, discount stores, outlets, clearance stores, foot stores, so like Foot Locker, Finish Line, DTLRs, Champs, places like that. We've got online sourcing, so this isn't hyped releases or anything, just buying and finding online. And then sixth, we have sneaker botting, right? So I'm gonna break each one of those down individually, more in depth, and then for each of them, I'm gonna go over 4 things. I'm gonna go over the best time to go, so like when these stores are profitable or releases are profitable, so the time. I'm gonna go over the stores in different areas that you can get them, so break down the different types of stores for discount stores, break down the different sites for online. We're gonna go over what kind of you're looking for and the price range that you're gonna be able to find it. So again, when I go into a discount store, I'm looking for a different type of shoe than I am when I'm going to a Nike clearance store, or maybe than I'm going to a Foot Locker, right? So those are all gonna be different. And then I'm also gonna go over discount codes and ways to increase your ROI through, again, just knowing more about coupon codes, discounts, sales, all of those things. So I'll go over those and break those each down now more in depth and give you those different specifics on how to better capitalize on those opportunities. All right, so the first category we're gonna go over is used shoes. Now, I know some people might roll their eyes at this, but this is probably the most accessible one to everyone right now, because just quite frankly, there's less starting capital, right? So if you're buying used shoes, right, this might be obvious, but we'll get into this, but some of the shoes I purchased, right, that to resell are $200, $300. It's not the case with used shoes. So starting off, right, with these, it definitely pays to go as early as possible. So these are stores that you could go to, like Goodwill, Salvation Army, and there's several other types, but basically you just look up thrift stores, right, in your area, and there's going to be a lot of them. This is a great option because, again, you can go pretty much any time. These stores are usually open late into the night. You could go right at the morning. That's just when I would recommend. But keep in mind too that when I'm telling you these times, it doesn't mean don't go if you can't go at that time. But in an optimal situation, you would want to go early. All right, so think about stores like that. This is an option, just maybe you haven't really thought about it. But what are you looking to get? Okay. When you go into these stores, I would say you don't want to pay more than $5 to $10 for a pair of shoes, okay? One of the biggest things that I would look for, again, is just you're looking for shoes that are mostly new. We're not telling you, or I'm not telling you to go out there and just buy any, if you see like a rare pair of Kobe's that have a hole through the forefoot, don't buy those, right? No, but just because it's a popular shoe, doesn't mean you need to buy it. You are looking for shoes that people just got rid of, that have minimal wear and are redeemable, right? There can't be holes in them. The sole can't be worn down to almost where you can see the cushioning, right? Now, you might say, well, how many shoes like that are there? Again, 99.9% of the shoes that you see in this store are not gonna be for you, right? You look at 1,000 shoes, you might find one that you're like, this is a winner. Now, what are you looking to sell these for? I would argue that the price range you're trying to attain is purchasing between $5 and $10 max, right? You don't want to go over that, and selling for at least 30 or more. Now, some of you that do this might realize that there's sometimes that you find shoes in there that you get for $5, $10 that you sell for 60, 70, 80 bucks. That is an amazing sale for somebody who is starting off, and even for somebody who's been in this forever. So that's definitely an option that I think a lot of people don't look at. Now, used shoes. Where's another option that is just overlooked completely by people? They're like, I don't have enough money to start a sneaker resale business. Go look in your closet. You likely have shoes in there that you could sell. Maybe you don't want to, but they're there. And finally, the big one with a lot of these categories I'm going to go over in the sales aspect is learning the sales patterns and the sales days for the Goodwills and Salvation Armies and places like that in your area. If you go in there, they can likely tell you, if you ask an employee, the days when sneakers are half priced or sneakers with a certain sticker are half price, but those are the days you want to go, right? If you can get 50% off of a shoe that's 10 bucks or 5 bucks, right? And you find shoes, which you will if you go often enough and just practice what you're looking for, you can make a lot of money. Again, I know people that I've been following online now for years who make well into the 6 figures in sales, right? Like I know there's one couple that does $400,000, $500,000 a year in sales of just used shoes. Now, have they built out systems where that people are helping them? Yes. But I just want you all to be aware that, like, if you don't have the money to do some of these other options just based on what the shoes cost or the resources you need, this is one of the best ways to get started. So again, great option for those that don't have much startup capital, right? And just I think a great option to just work on learning the platforms, right? You can check, and I'll mention this with every one of these, you can go on Poshmark, on GOAT, on eBay, right? Those are 3 major sites that you can sell used shoes on. So go on those sites and see what they're selling for, see what people are paying, check sales, right? You're not flying blind with any of the purchases that you make. You have data if you choose to look at it on those selling platforms that will make you kind of more at ease with what you're purchasing. And next up, we have discount stores. So we're not on used shoes anymore. Now we're moving on to pretty much all brand new shoes. Now we're going to talk about Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, and Burlington Coat Factory, all right? That's what when I say discount stores, umbrella term referring to all 4 of those. Now, those are the stores, all right? What are you looking for in these stores? You're pretty much looking for shoes that shoes or cleats. Cleats are a major moneymaker at these discount stores. You're looking for shoes and cleats that are basically priced somewhere between like 10 and 40 to 50 bucks, all right? There are some shoes you might find that are gonna be a little more, but again, you've gotta check the prices on eBay, GOAT, Poshmark, right? All stores or shopping or selling platforms that you can sell shoes that don't have a box, right? So you need to remember that when you go to these stores, a lot of the time you're just gonna be looking at a wall of shoes, right? Not necessarily in box, but you need to be able to check the sale prices, right, on those platforms where you can sell those. Now, when you want to go to these stores, in my experience, there is no rhyme or reason, right? They put stuff out at different times. I've gone first thing in the morning and found great stuff and found nothing. I've gone in the middle of the day and found great stuff and found nothing. I've gone at 9 p.m. when I got off from teaching and drove around for 5 hours hitting 10, 15 discount stores and found garbage and great things. I would just say go as often as you can, right? Go in the morning, go at night, try to catch when they're restocking shoes. But all of these stores are great. Now, are you gonna find stuff in every single store you go to? No. There's plenty of times when I've gone to stores and I go to 5 in a row and come out with nothing. There's also times that I go to one store and come out with 10 things. Not usually 10, but 5 to 10 things. But regardless, right? The hours aren't that big of a deal. I would say just go when you can, all right? And again, that price point you're looking for, sometimes you can get cleats in there for 5, 10 bucks that'll sell for 50. The ROI on cleats at these stores is outstanding. If you don't know cleats, look up every cleat in the store, right? Use your resources. You have a phone, check prices. If you don't know how to do that, all you would do, you would take a shoe, right? I got a shoe, look at the size tag. On the size tag, there's gonna be a SKU number. You put the SKU in, you can see all the sales. So a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know if this is gonna sell? Because I can check, right? I can check, is the shoe used? Is it new? When did it sell? how many sold in the past several weeks. You're not flying blind. So again, you are looking for cheap shoes that are usually, or cleats, that are usually priced between 10, 40 bucks. You can check the sale prices and go from there. There aren't really gonna be any discount codes at these stores, right? You're already getting discounted merchandise. I do believe that there's like a senior citizen discount at Ross or Marshall's, maybe both of them on, I believe it's Tuesday, but like you're kind of getting what you're looking at, right? Whatever the price is, that's pretty much what you're paying. So these stores are a great option. They are pretty prevalent across the United States, right? They're not concentrated just in cities. Obviously, there's going to be more in cities, but these are great options. Again, I know people that do $100,000, $200,000 in sales just off of stores like these. So again, pretty good variety of stuff you can find in there: boots, cleats, running shoes, basketball shoes, casual shoes, whatever it may be, kids, women's, men's. They are very good options that you should be utilizing if you don't really know what to do or where to go. I would definitely go to these stores and check them out and just look for those type of finds that I mentioned. All right, next up we are going to talk about outlets and clearance stores. This is this is 100% the biggest portion of the sales that I've generated over the past 4 to 5 years. These stores have a lot of inventory in them that you can flip if you know what you're looking for. So first, which outlets, all right? I would highly recommend, for the majority of people just starting off that are going to be selling on one of the eBay, GOAT, StockX, Poshmark, Mercari, sites like that. These are a great option, but I would focus on Nike. Nikes have the best resale value, right? But again, it doesn't matter what the resale value is. It matters what you paid for it. So Nike stores have the most hyped up releases that you can get at a discount and then sell for more than the retail price. Now, I prefer Nike, but I've recently been getting more into Adidas, Under Armour, Puma, stores like that also have outlets. Again, those stores might not have as hyped up of shoe, but the hype shouldn't matter to you, right? If you are a reseller, what matters is how much did I get it for and how much can I sell it? And outlets like those have great deals. These stores are typically going to open at like 10 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. So I know that during the week that makes it very difficult for a lot of people to go just based on work schedules. But this is a store where I would recommend going as early as possible. That's always the move. But still go even if you aren't able to go first thing in the morning. All right. Now, what are you looking for in these stores? You're looking for, again, just shoes that are marked down a lot. You are pretty much trying to find the shoes that are marked down from their retail price the most, checking them on the sites again. So eBay, StockX, GOAT, Poshmark are a good start. You can check the sales by, again, grabbing a shoe, looking at the size tag, put in the SKU number, look at recent sales. Typically in these stores, I'm trying to get shoes for usually between, I'd say like $50 and $100, all right? Obviously, if something's on sale less than that, you're gold, right? Gold mine. But really, that's the price range that I'm looking at. A lot of the shoes on the lower end of that price range I'm looking for are just generic kind of running shoes, training shoes, casual shoes, so let's say like a Nike Pegasus or like a Nike Metacon or a Nike Air Force One, right? If I can get those types of shoes for around 50 bucks, you can flip them for about 100 all day, right? That's a great flip. The shoes on that price range that are more in the $100 range are shoes like Nike Jordan 1s, Nike Jordan 4s, right? Nike Dunks, Nike basketball shoes like LeBron's, KD's, different shoes like that. If you can get for around or a little lower than 100, you can usually flip for about 150 to 200, right? So that's generally what you're looking for in there, right? That's what you're going for on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Saturday morning. Those are good finds that you can find all day, all right? Now, there are also finds in these stores where you get lucky sometime and you're able to get a brand new in-box shoe for like 20%, 30% off, but then flip it for a lot higher than retail. So we're starting to get into the area where you can find shoes that really make you a lot of money. So these stores are really good. There are a lot of them, right? You can go to different brands, you can go at different times of the day. If you're in a metropolitan area, you probably have 2 to 3 within an hour of you. But one of the biggest factors in your success with these is going to be how well you utilize discount codes, coupons, and the staff, right? If you don't use discount codes, you're not going to make it very long, because there are people out there that are getting 20, 30, 40% off pretty much every time they go to these stores. This is something too that like is a time-based learning thing, right? If you go to these stores all the time, constantly talk to their employees, you tend to notice the patterns of the sales, right? When I started off reselling, right, my girlfriend and I would go to a store and we'd see like 20% off and we'd be like, oh, we gotta buy everything. But the next week they had 30% off, right? And then the week after that they had 30, right? And we slowly started to pick up on patterns, right? But I will tell you that you need to know those patterns and those sales and go on those days. Does that mean that those are the only days to go? No, but you do want to get the lowest price you can. So again, just kind of learn the systems that you're working with and working within, and just try to make sure that you're going on those days, which are usually weekends, which have the best sales for those outlets. So again, this is probably the most used one of these types of sourcing we'll cover today, but this is a great option for people if they do have these stores in their area. Next up is one that people are probably fairly familiar with, and that's going to be foot stores. So those are stores like Foot Locker, Champs, Kids Foot Locker, Finish Line, DTLR, those types of stores. Now, these are going to have similar store hours, right? They're going to be open from like 10 to 8. You want to go earlier if you're going to get the best stuff. Now, a big factor with these is the raffles that they do. So what you need to know about these stores is mostly you're going to be trying to get pairs of shoes that are rare or limited or hyped, whatever you want to call it. You're going to go to these stores, right? And they're going to have an app that you would need to download, and you can enter for raffles. I would never tell you to get 50 or 100 accounts and enter all of them, right? But you really want to enter as many times as you can. I, at this point, have a couple hundred accounts because I get them from providers who make them. So that you need to be aware of how this game is played, right? If you're going to excel at it, but make a bunch of accounts, right? Well, I'll go over later how to get a bunch of email addresses, because pretty much every one of these options, if you have more accounts, right, you're going to be better off. So with that, right, you're going to be entering into these raffles, and you're hopefully going to win. If you win, you go into the store, you pick it up, yay, you can sell it, all right? If you don't win, the day after every one of these drops, they have leftovers. If you are going to these stores first thing in the morning, you cannot do this later on in the day. You can pick up leftover pairs that people that won the raffle didn't pick up. So what are you looking for in foot stores? Really, you're either looking for recent releases that you can sell for over retail, because discounts are not much of a thing in these stores, all right? So you're either trying to win on a raffle, or you're trying to pick up the next day when somebody doesn't pick that order up, okay? With that being said, I said no discount codes. The only other thing that you're really looking for in these stores is just shoes with the sale tag that is just like dirt cheap. So you're either looking for really good options like Jordans, Jordan mids, or things that you can sell quickly, or you're looking for shoes that are just heavily discounted. This is an option that I use some, but it's mostly for the, again, options that I can win via raffle, which again, I have a very unfair advantage because I have several hundred accounts, or I'm going the day after to try to pick up those leftover pairs, right? That's really where I am at with these stores. If you do sell on Amazon, which I do, you can go into these stores every single day and pick up Jordan mids in men's, women's, or kids sizes, or even grade school, and you can sell those all day. So those are really the three options you're looking at in foot stores. You're either, if you are an Amazon seller, because I'll talk about that later, Jordan mids and dunks are all day, right? Those work extremely well. You're looking for recent hyped releases or shoes that are just heavily, heavily discounted. You're not going to get many discounts to add on, but you can look for those. So if you're going to go to these stores, definitely get accounts. Try to win those pairs that are hyped and that you can sell for over retail, and then work on building up your selling avenues so that you can sell stuff like Jordan mids very quickly. Again, if you have an account and are ungated on Amazon. All right, next up, we're going to talk about a type of sourcing called brick flipping, which is online. All right, so online brick flipping. Now, a brick is a shoe that isn't like hyped up and is basically just like a regular running shoe, just a plain shoe, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what it's called in this space, okay? So with this, right, One of the big keys to doing this really well is getting into a cook group, all right? So I'm gonna mention this a couple times, but that's basically a group that you can join online that is in a Discord, which is a chat app if you're not familiar, where they give you a bunch of links throughout the day to shoes that are just heavily discounted online. Now this could be on Nike, this could be on Hibbett, this could be on Foot Locker, this could be on Finish Line, this could be on obscure stores that you've never heard of, right? But there are a lot of shoes that drop, and these groups have monitors in the group that kind of scrape the internet for when shoes drop, and they'll post. They'll tell you, this shoe just got posted, these are the profitable sizes, this is the discount code, go, right? And you can order as many of these as you want as of now, and they'll get shipped to one address. Now, some of you may have heard that recently Nike is trying to crack down on this. I'll tell you that I think that's a load of baloney and it's all posturing, but just that could be a thing moving forward, so this might be a little less effective. But basically, you're just going to be kind of in these groups. They're going to send you links, notifications, and you can go and get as many pairs as you want. There's usually not a limit. With that being said, right, you also want, when you're doing this, to utilize things like Rakuten, I think is how you pronounce it. Different, you know, any way that you can get cash back, right, is going to be a big benefit for you, because obviously if you've got a card that's 3, 4, 5% cash back, right, that's a big deal when you're buying in bulk. So you do need a group to do this really effectively. I will have information at the end of this video on a couple of the brick flipping groups I'm in, but it is going to cost you like 40, 50 bucks a month. But I promise you, if you come into this with the needed startup capital, which is not like, if you come in with 50 bucks and you spend it on the group, it's not going to do anything, because now you can't buy those shoes. But if you do have the money to purchase the shoes, if you put the time in one of these groups, it'll pay for itself within a week, right? You will find shoes on there that you can instantly get and sell. But that's essentially what you're doing. You are working with a group to use a monitor which scrapes the internet for you, and when a good shoe drops, they give you the info, you click on the link, and you do your thing, right? This is very profitable for people. I know people that buy 10, 20, 30, 40 pairs of these shoes that you know sell, right? I can't stress that enough. If you go on eBay and StockX, eBay, right, Poshmark, right, you can see the sales. You can see how many are selling a day. So you're not flying blind. This is a great option also for people who aren't in metropolitan areas, who don't have access to all these stores, right? I'm between two big cities, so I've basically got 2 interstate loops around each city that are just scattered with these stores, right? I don't need to do the online brick flipping, but I do because it's profitable, but it's not my bread and butter. This is the move for some people though, because again, when you really look at a map, they're not evenly, these stores, discount stores, outlets, foot stores, they're not evenly distributed throughout the country, right? If you are on one of those coastal cities, right, or Florida or Texas, they're everywhere. If you're not, this might be a really good option. So don't think that if you don't have a bunch of stores, you're out of luck and you don't know how to run a bot. This is a way to get sneakers that requires really no technical know-how other than just getting into that group that's going to give you the info. The next category I'm going to talk about requires a lot of technical know-how, but just know that this method of getting shoes online, if you are in a brick flipping group, not a botting group, but if you're in a group that gives you online brick flips, that's a really good option. So just remember, that doesn't really require any technical expertise. You don't need a fast computer. You don't need, right? Does that stuff help you some? Sure, but it's not essential, right? So I think that this is the most accessible form for pretty much everybody. But I would, and again, I just need to stress that you need to be in a group, right? Because if you just start selling sneakers, you're not going to know the sites to look for and what to kind of find. So getting in a group would be really good if you were looking to do this specific type of brick flipping online. And finally, probably the thing that I have built up my channel the most on, and I think is the most like unique and interesting to people, is sneaker botting, right? So I run sneaker bots, which are essentially software. So you click on something, it opens up, and it allows you to feed information into it to trick the companies into not realizing that the same exact person is purchasing all of these pairs, okay? Right now, I'm not gonna lie, I think that this is by far, I know that this is by far the hardest method of getting sneakers on this list. I do not recommend this for the majority of people, especially at this current time and economic kind of situation that our country is in. Again, this is mid-October, late October 2022. It is very difficult right now to do this. I just want to preface that. I do not recommend that all of you do this, but I do want to provide info on it because I do know that a lot of people really find it intriguing and want to try. So first off, all right, this allows you on sites like Yeezy Supply, Foot Locker online, Finish Line online, Shopify stores, if you're not familiar, that sell like premium and hype releases that are like Kith, Undefeated, Dover Street Market, what else we got? Shoe Palace, stores like that, right? And then you've got other stores on there like Dick's Sporting Goods, Hibbett, right? Basically any store that sells premium sneakers is gonna have a website, and that's where they're gonna release a lot of these pairs, because for the most part, they can monitor how many pairs are going to a person, right? So to better explain this, right, if you were trying to purchase a pair of Yeezys on Yeezy Supply, right, you would go on there at 10 a.m., you would click on the shoe, you'd see something spin for an hour, and then it'd say they're sold out. If you did get a chance to get a pair, you'd purchase a pair, and that's it. If you tried to purchase a second pair and got to checkout successfully, and you put your information in, they would cancel both of your orders because they have a strict one per person policy. Is it illegal to do this? Absolutely not. At this time, there is no law preventing this. The stores just, quite frankly, don't like it. The obvious reasons, okay? But basically, right, you're getting a piece of software that you would have to buy from a bot marketplace or a Discord that has bots. I will include that information at the end of this video. But you would have to purchase a bot, which can range anywhere from $100 to a couple $1,000s, okay? You then would need to feed information into it, so you would need to get more credit card numbers, right? Because if you run the same credit card number every single time, they'll block you. So you need to have a bunch of different credit cards, all right? When you run bots, if you run at any level of scale, you use something called a VCC, so a virtual credit card company, all right? I have access to a couple of these, meaning that I have access to like 3, 4, 5,000 different credit card numbers that are all linked to like 5 main accounts. So you need a bunch of credit card numbers. You need a bot. You need a server possibly if you're going to run more than one bot. You need something called PROXIES, all right? So PROXIES are IP addresses that you purchase from another company and then you put in the bot. When you do that, the site that you are trying to get a shoe from thinks that it's all coming from different houses because all of the IP addresses are different, right? So you need a bot, you need a server, you need proxies, right? You need credit card numbers. For some sites like US Sneakers, Nike Sneakers, you need accounts. There's a lot that goes into it. I want to explain this because it is a very profitable way to get shoes, but it is also the hardest, full stop, right? The other ways I've talked about, there's a learning curve, but this is by far the hardest. So this is the way that you see people get a bunch of a shoe that just quite frankly is very limited, and they should not be able to do that. I have provided this info on here, and if any of y'all ever want to learn how to do this more in depth, all you need to do is check out my YouTube channel. I do believe that it is the most educational resource out there for botting. Doesn't mean I'm the best in the world at it, but I think that the resources I put out are the most educational you'll find. So I don't want to harp on this too long because I could talk about the specifics of this type of sneaker sourcing for literally hours, if not days. But it is a very profitable way to get shoes if you are able to do it well. But I do just want to warn you that it takes you probably a year or two to get good at it, right? You can go to discount stores, outlets, foot stores, and pick up the gist of what you're doing within a week or 2 or 3. It's not to say that you know everything, but like it's pretty straightforward, right? The botting thing is not. So just know that, right? If you do see somebody hitting a bunch of pairs, right, it took them a long time to get to that point and it cost them a lot of money. I am profitable with it at this point, but it took me at least a year or 2 to kind of get to that point. Like I mentioned earlier, I kind of viewed it as research and development, and now it does make me money. and is very profitable and very good, is a really big benefit to my business. But it's not something I would really recommend for everybody. But if you do want more educational content on it, definitely check out my YouTube channel and then my other social media pages. But that is the sixth or fifth sourcing method. So that's kind of it. At this point, I've gone over all of them just kind of in a broad, just going over the positives and benefits, just where you should be looking for things, the times. And the other issue with botting too is that most of the releases are at like 8, 9, 10 a.m. EST. So if you're on the East Coast, you're kind of out of luck if you have a job, right? So that's definitely tough, but just wanted to throw this in there. So that's it for the different types of ways that you can source shoes. Next, I'm going to go over the different selling platforms and just where you should be looking for shoes to sell on sites like Amazon, selling platforms like Poshmark, Mercari. We've got eBay is obviously a big one, right? So we'll go over all those now and just kind of break down what you should be looking for based on your current situation. All right, so now that we've gone over just kind of how I got started and where you can get shoes from, right? I wanted to just kind of go over that because these are two big pieces of the puzzle. Obviously, you need to be able to get inventory, but then if you get inventory, you need ways to sell it. So I'm gonna go over the different platforms now that I've used personally to sell sneakers, and I'm gonna go over the positives and negatives for each one of those sites right now. All right, so the first way to sell that I'm gonna go over is selling platforms. So what I mean by this is platforms that are a little smaller than eBay and Amazon, which I'll go over in a second. But these include platforms like Poshmark, Mercari, GMAILZ, Depop, sites like that where you are going to get eyes on your inventory, but if you look at just the number of viewers on those sites, they're just not as large as some of the other sites and platforms I'll go over. So that's a negative. And the other negative would be just that a lot of these sites include some type of like sharing your closet on Poshmark or like promoting. So that can take you a little time unless you get something to automate for that. But that is, that can be a little inconvenient. The positives, I find that on these sites, again, it's not the biggest mover for me, but I find that I sell like women's shoes, kids shoes a little better on these sites. They do, they do account for a solid percentage of my business, but there are other ways that I sell shoes that I'm able to move inventory faster. But this is a great place to sell shoes if you get them from, let's say, a discount store, right? Or an outlet where you don't have a box. It's a lot more kind of acceptable on there because people aren't really on there looking for like premium sneakers so much as much as they're looking for deals. So again, that would include, like I said, like Poshmark, Mercari, Depop, GMAILZ. Those are all good sites that you can use. You do need to make an account, and then you need to obviously upload your inventory on there. But these are a good option, and I would highly recommend trying to get your listings on as many of the different types of platforms that I'm going to talk about, including these selling platforms. All right, next up is going to be the platform that I've done by far the most volume on because it was the first platform I ever started on. And I think it is a great place to work your, I've talked about buying or selling things that maybe you have at home, used shoes. When I started off selling, right, when we were doing books, video games, everything under the sun, we used eBay a lot. All right, eBay is definitely a great place to sell sneakers. Up until recently, they had 0 selling fees. But they have changed that, so that's unfortunate. This isn't quite as good of an option as it was, but it is still a great option. Again, you're gonna get more eyes on your products right here than pretty much Poshmark, Mercari, GMAILZ, all of them combined. Again, that is a big bonus. Another bonus, right, is that you can on this platform, if you're doing shoes, you can sell shoes without a box, shoes with half box. You just have to make your listings a little more detailed, and then you can go from there. A big question I get about eBay is like, oh, you do auctions? No, you can do buy it now price, so you have your price, people can offer, and you can go from there. The one thing that I will say can be time consuming and frustrating with eBay is building up your rating. You do get a store rating, and it can take a while to get enough sales to hit those marks to be a top rated seller. And that ranking affects how much of a percentage get taken out of your sales. So that's another reason why I think it's a good idea to sell other things when you're starting off, to learn platforms. It's very easy to sell books, right? I've got a couple hundred books in my house and I sold some of those. It helps you learn the process of selling on a site and can build up your sales and your feedback from buyers a lot more quickly, because shoes can be a little more difficult to sell like 100, 200 pairs, when compared to like a book, right? So eBay is definitely a great option. Lots of eyes, very easy to use. The one thing is just going to be that it takes you some time to build up to that top rated seller. And that I think that's a small price to pay for being on a very good platform that you can sell pretty much anything on. All right, the next buyer market that I would go over, and is a big one for sneakers if you are able to do it, is local buyers. All right, now what do I mean by that? I basically mean selling to people in person. You can do this a bunch of ways, right? There's a big reason, and I'm going to talk about starting a social media page later, but that can be a big way to do this, right? You can kind of post sales up there and see if anybody in the area wants to meet to pick up those shoes. Typically, when you do this, you often get a higher price than you would from like a StockX or a GOAT, right? So that's definitely, something to consider. Now, there are negatives to this, right? First is that you've got to go meet people, right? That can be time consuming, that can be a little nerve wracking, right? You don't necessarily know who you're meeting. So please, if you do this, try to meet in broad daylight, maybe meet at a police station, meet where there's a lot of people, because that obviously is a risk. Now, over time, I know people who pretty much strictly sell to local buyers because over time they've built up a clientele that knows like, hey, if I want this shoe, I'll hit this person up, and then you meet, all right? So typically, again, you can get a little more money because you're getting cash and you're delivering it to them. There's no wait for the shoe. So that is a good option. Again, this can take time to build up though. So you've got to remember that maybe you want to be using eBay selling platforms. You want to be using those in the meantime to keep those sales moving and keep your cash flow moving. But over time, if you are persistent and deliver on the shoes that you are selling to your customer base, they'll eventually tell other people, your customer base will grow, and hopefully you can move a lot more shoes like that. I do this sometimes. I don't do it that often because of the time it takes to meet up with people, but this is a really good option if you're just starting off and trying to just, again, move inventory as fast as possible. All right, the next type of selling that I'm gonna go over is sneaker conventions, all right? Now, with these, this is gonna be more tailored to if you are getting premium level sneakers that are harder to get. Now, if you are looking for places where, like, let's say you're able to get a bunch of these pairs from a foot store with the raffles I went over, or you can get them online, however you got them, it can be time consuming and frustrating sometimes to get all those shoes and have to wait for those sales to just kind of, knock out one by one. If you go to sneaker conventions, you can pretty much find somebody to buy them in bulk off of you and just rinse and repeat. That can really help you initially, right? Just get connections, find bulk buyers, find people that will sell. Maybe you could purchase from a bulk buyer. There are a lot of benefits from going to these shows. Now, there are also negatives, right? It's time consuming. You've got to figure out a way to bring everything to the event. If you do get a table, they're about $100 an event. And the travel and the logistics of getting a bunch of shoes to one of these shows is a topic in and of itself. But just know that these sneaker conventions like SneakerCon, Got Soul, the sneaker convention, those types of events, if you go to them in your area, you will definitely learn a lot about how people are moving shoes in bulk, how bulk buyers price, what price bulk sellers are looking for. It's a very good environment if you are trying to just scale up with more premium inventory. So again, it can be time consuming. Some people don't like having to go out and network and talk to a bunch of people to find what they want, but it is a very good option if you have a bunch of shoes and are just trying to, again, take bulk, make several $100,000 off that, and just rinse and repeat. So that is an option. I would definitely look into those if you've never gone, because it can be a very eye-opening experience to a part of the market that really does big numbers as far as sales. And last but certainly not least, we have Amazon. Now, this is a site that is by far, in my opinion, the hardest to get down and master, but I also feel is the best opportunity right now as far as reselling. The first issue, I'll go over the issues first, right? The first issue is that you need to get ungated. So Amazon is very specific on getting legit invoices from companies to prove that you're a reseller with all of your information on it. So before you just jump into this and buy a bunch of Nikes and try to sell, you need to go make an Amazon seller account. You need to get verified on there. You need to get ungated. So if I want to sell Nike, I need to get ungated for Nike. Adidas, the same thing. So that can be time consuming. I'm not going to go into how to do that now because there are plenty of resources out there on the internet, but that's the first step. The second step I would say is that it is much different selling on here than like eBay, Go, StockX, right? On those platforms, you pretty much type in the SKU of the shoe, hit sell, hit your price, you're done. With Amazon, it's definitely a little different. I have a scanner, I have their data called Keepa, I have several resources because you can't just list the shoe like they don't have it. It's not that simple, right? There is a lot of different things you have to learn, especially if you're going to do FBA, which is what I do with Amazon. You can also ship it yourself, which is called FBM, but you have two options, all right? If you're going to do FBA, it's going to take you some time to purchase the shoes, figure out how to get them, how to ship them, and then you're going to have to figure out how to ship them all correctly, all in one big box, all right? That is very different than all of these other platforms, which for the most part are all individual sales, all right? Again, I'm not trying to scare you off from this because it is definitely worth it once you get it rolling, but this will take you some time and you will make mistakes when you're shipping the inventory to them, listing it, right? It can be very difficult to find the correct size. There are just a lot of things on there that make it unique compared to these other platforms. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're selling on eBay, Goat, Poshmark, Mercari, StockX, you know, in person, it's not that hard to do from a listing standpoint, right? You literally just kind of type in the shoe, put up some pictures, put a description, put your price, and that's pretty much it. This is just very different. So just be aware that this is a unique skill as far as selling, but it's definitely worth it. Now, why is it worth it? It's worth it because Amazon, by far, has more eyes on it than every platform I've talked about so far combined, right? I'm sure you are aware, but that is the biggest online marketplace that has ever touched planet Earth. So that's the big reason. The second reason, the prices on Amazon for shoes are ridiculous. If you buy shoes on Amazon, stop it. Go buy them somewhere else. People just buy on there because they're in the ecosystem, they've got Prime. It's just very convenient, right? They're paying for convenience. So the prices on Amazon are quite frankly pretty ridiculous. They're really high. I don't know why people buy shoes on there. I think it's because everything else is priced so low, they assume that the shoes are priced low. So the prices are really high. Despite the 20% they take, it's worth it. Second, you can, again, easily figure out, if you have like an app called Scout IQ, you can easily figure out how a shoe is doing on Amazon before buying it. This is a big deal, right? Again, you're not just buying, you know, blindfolded in the dark. You can scan and you can see a sales rank. Typically, if the sales rank is under 50K for shoes, it's a buy. Now, again, the other benefit too is that this allows you to sell shoes that I otherwise wouldn't touch because I couldn't sell them on other platforms. I'm not usually going for premium stuff to sell on Amazon. I'm usually going for very generic shoes that are very basic colors, like a running shoe, training shoe, just a walking, just casual shoe, right? They're lower end that I can get at one of those outlets for like 20, 30, 40 bucks on sale. I'm typically gonna be able to sell for around 100. So again, this is a time-consuming process to get up and running. It will take you a month or so to get ungated, to go find the shoes, to figure out how to ship them all. It's gonna take some time, but there are resources out there and it is worth it. So again, that's the end of the selling platform. So again, we had selling platforms, right? Like Poshmark, Mercari, Go, StockX, those platforms, right? That kind of have a niche where you're selling maybe more women's shoes on one, more kids on shoes on another, cleats here, right? Those selling platforms give you a little more reach. eBay, right? Great platform. You can sell pretty much anything on. Very good. We've got in-person sales, so just building up your clientele. We've got sneaker conventions. Again, great place for bulk buying and selling. And then finally, we've got Amazon, which is obviously the biggest marketplace in the world and really allows you to scale quickly because of how fast the sales volume on those generic shoes is. So again, just take that for what it is. You will need to kind of dig into that a little more to see what is best for your situation. But those are the platforms that I sell on, and just again, the positives and negatives for each one. And finally, I'm gonna go over a couple things that have helped me scale my business and things that you should be just kind of having in the back of your mind as you continue to grow and progress through your sneaker reselling or reselling journey. Again, I think that pretty much all of these topics I'm about to cover in this part can be applied to pretty much any niche in reselling, right? So if it's clothes, if it's video games, if it's electronics, board games, right? Whatever the case may be, all of these apply, because again, if you're going to scale your business, at some point you need to delegate things. You need to be able to get information from other quality sources. You need to be able, again, step back and have the things in your business that anyone can do, quite frankly, do. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, listing, right? Are you really the only person that can list your items? No, right? Somebody else could do that. Okay. Are you going to scour the internet every day to try to figure out what shoes are dropping? No, you could outsource that to a group that will provide you information, right? So again, just keep these things in the back of your mind, even if you are starting off. And if you are, well into your journey, think about maybe using some of these services or ideas to help you, again, grow faster so that you can focus on only what you can do in your business. All right, so the first thing I recommend is if you are going to get into reselling sneakers, you should get in some sort of cook group. Now, what is a cook group? If you are not aware, basically it's a group that is going to be held on a Discord server, which is like a chat app. If you've never heard of Discord, think of like new school AIM, right? So you're going to be on this chat app and you will likely pay 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a month to be in this group. Now, in this group, it could be one focused on sneaker botting. It could be one focused on just general resale, or it could be one focused on brick flipping, which I talked about earlier, which is just cheaper shoes that aren't like hyped up releases. Okay. I highly recommend getting into one of these groups. If you're going to do the brick flipping, this would really help you, right? You can find a group that focuses on that and get in that group. If you're going to bot, you need to be in a group. Now, could I do this could I bot at this point without a cook group? Probably, because I've learned enough to just know what to do. But if you're starting out, you need to be somewhere where you can, quickly communicate with other people who know what they're doing. If you are in a cook group, there are people in that group who know how to run a bot, who know what the issues you're having are, who know how to fix them, who provide all the information, right? Again, if you get into botting or getting to selling sneakers, these groups can provide you information that are going to allow you to make better decisions, right? They're going to have ideas about what the resale price would be. They're going to give you links to click on right away and put into your bot and use that information. These groups will pay for themselves, right? If you get into a group for $50 a month and you really apply yourself, you're going to make back that money. All right, there's no way that you can curate all of that information, right? A lot of times Nike will have what they call like shock drops, right? Where like in the middle of the day, they'll release a very limited pair of sneakers. If you're not in a group, there's no way you're going to know that, right? If you're in a group, you're probably going to know that 5-6 hours before it happens, because they'll put it out there, you'll get a notification, and you'll go from there. This is a great way to get around people who are doing better than you and have more experience, all right? I do hear people go, you don't need a cook group. I agree, you don't need one, but I think that it is a very good move. I often recommend to people that are getting into botting to get in a group and don't start botting until a month or two into the group. Learn the lingo, learn what you're looking for, watch a couple drops and watch a couple people maybe hit shoes they shouldn't have tried to hit. Maybe you'll see resale prices were off. Basically, just get in one of these groups, right? I will have information at the end of the video on a group that I work with. One of them is called Notify, outstanding group. You've got some of myself, I'm in there every day. You've got other people in there that are some of the top 1% botters and just sneaker resellers in existence. So again, it is really good to get in these groups just to learn faster and learn from other people's mistakes. So again, if you've never heard of one of these, I think that's honestly maybe the best move, is just get in a cook group, just start interacting with the members and just watch and kind of observe for a month or two. And then you can make better decisions off of your current situation, right? Too many times people try to do it on their own and make a lot of mistakes that they could have just short-circuited by going through this process. So again, Do you need one? No, but it is definitely a good investment for that amount of month just to learn and get your feet wet without having to dive in head first on the first time you've really ever tried something. All right, and the second thing that I think is a great idea for some people who are selling right now or reselling and want to kind of scale their business or reach more customers is going to be some sort of cross-listing service, all right? So I've worked with a company before called Hammock, and basically what they do is I take pictures of the shoe, send them to them with the information and the price, and then they go about doing the listing for me, right? So if you are only selling on one platform, is this needed? Absolutely not. If you're selling on 2 platforms, is this needed? Not really. But from experience, every platform you add it's not like a linear progression on difficulty. All right. If you are selling on 2 platforms, going to 3, going to 4, going to 5 makes it much more difficult to keep track of your inventory on each site. I have found that in the past, when I tried to do 4 or 5 platforms on my own, when I was kind of coming up in this, it led to a lot of issues, because if I let 1 or 2 days go where I didn't adjust my inventory completely, quickly the thing would get out of control, and I'd start to get sales that I didn't have because they sold on another platform. And then at some point every 2-3 months I would have to completely redo my inventory because it would just get out of whack. These services can definitely help that, right? They can allow you to do pretty much 6, 7, 8 sites without that stress of having to delist everything. So again, this is a good way to outsource a very basic task that you're going to be doing in your business to someone else that can do it for a cheap price. So this will allow you more time sourcing, more time creating content, more time researching, whatever it is, you will have more time. So a cross-listing service is going to be really not the only way, but a very smart way to go about reaching more customers without making it so stressful on yourself that you start to sell stuff you don't have and you start to get out of just unorganized with your inventory. So definitely look at Hammock. Great company. I really like working with them, so definitely check them out. I know List Perfectly is also a great company. So you have some options, but this is definitely something to look into if you want to push sales faster by getting on more platforms. All right, the third thing that I would highly recommend looking into if you are trying to scale your business and just improve your overall sales is hiring a virtual assistant. All right, now this is a little different than the cross listing, since that you could maybe say is an assistant, but the virtual assistant can do a lot for you, right? So I had a very narrow view on what a virtual assistant would be, right? I'd heard of it plenty of times, read about it, and I kind of just thought they would maybe do some back-end work with some spreadsheets, and I was like, what would that really do for me? I didn't realize until I looked into it further that you can get people that are video editors, graphic designers, SEO, marketing specialists, right? People that can run your Amazon FBA for you, right? And just do all of the back-end work. They are extremely valuable. If you are going to, again, scale your business, it can be a good idea to hire one of these people at a very low price. I think I pay them about $500. I pay my video about $500 a month, and I get way more value back than that, all right? It is a great option, again, to fill those areas of your business that you are not an expert in. Eventually, again, I hired a VA a couple months ago. I got to a point where it's like, I can't keep learning all of these different skills, right? I can't be a master botter, a master sourcer, great seller at conventions, making content, right? Like I need to delegate some of this out. So look at that. Definitely, it can take some time to onboard a virtual assistant, but I promise you that, again, if you can make it so that you can spend more time doing the things that only you can do, your business is going to excel faster. I think too, that if you are going to do, again, a channel, this is a great move, because again, it can be difficult for some of us to learn to, on top of reselling, right? Being a video editor, being a graphic designer, learning Google ads, right? YouTube marketing. It's too much at some point, right? Eventually you grow to a point where you need other people to help. So I would definitely look at just finding a virtual assistant. There are a lot that are overseas in countries where you can pay them what they consider as an outstanding salary that isn't that difficult on you to provide. So again, this is when you get to a kind of higher stage in reselling, but I would definitely not pigeonhole virtual assistants into all they can do for you is like edit documents, right? You can find virtual assistants online that specialize in pretty much anything, which is a great option for you if you're trying to scale. And finally, the last piece of advice that I would give to you that I've mentioned a couple times so far in this video, I think that one of the best ways that you can work to scale your business is to start a channel. Now, are you going to reap a bunch of rewards from starting a channel immediately? Absolutely not. You will not probably see any clear benefit that you can objectively measure from a channel for at least half a year, and that's if you really go hard at it every single day and are providing a lot of value to other people. I started my channel about 14 months ago at this point, and I cannot tell you how much I've benefited from that just from a networking perspective. If I had not put myself out there, just again, documenting my progress, documenting botting, documenting my failures, just everything I was doing, I would not have any sponsors right now, which really helped me out a lot on botting, right? I get a lot of resources for free. I have networked with people who have helped me learn things, right? I networked with people that otherwise probably wouldn't help me in botting. I've networked people that have helped me a lot with Amazon FBA, and again, following people and being somebody in that community that posts often, you can learn from other people on social media. And if you have a presence on social media, right, people, for whether or not this is fair or not, if you have a channel, people are far more likely to talk to you and want to help you, especially if you've given out free information on how to do things. So, is it going to result in benefits right away? No. But if you are constantly posting information that can help someone, you're going to make progress, and it's going to help you just learn the overall reselling game more, and it's going to give you more opportunities. Again, it's not something that a lot of people want to do because it can kind of be embarrassing. I know when I started off, right, it took me a couple weeks to get 100 views. That for some people, they can't stomach that. Again, I would say, don't worry about that. Don't claim that you're a master on something that you are kind of clueless on. Just state, here's my journey. I'm documenting. This is what I did today. This is what I messed up today. Oh my God, I lost this money on this shoe. What do you all do about this issue? There's a lot of ways that you can provide value to a community without having mastered the topic yet, right? The biggest mistake that I made with my channel was not starting it 4 years ago when I started off on this, right? I attempted to start filming during the time we were at home during the virus, but I didn't. I filmed an episode and never posted it, right? It took me another year before I really started that channel. So again, I know it can be scary. I know you don't want to put yourself out there, but I promise you, if you are serious about growing your business, that is one of the best things you can do, is start a channel and just be part of the community that is trying to help each other just move through this and do a better job reselling. So again, definitely look into that. I know it can be scary, but it's definitely worth it. All right, so that is really all I have for y'all today. I didn't get too into the weeds with anything because really, again, this is a general reselling conference. I wanted to just kind of provide you all with an overview of the niche, right? And just give you an idea of how people go about making money reselling, right? It's not to say that I don't think you should sell anything else, but this is something that I've found to be myself quite good at, knowledgeable, and it's just it's honestly fun for me. So again, definitely look at this and try to apply it to your general situation, right? Not everybody's gonna be able to buy. Not everybody's in an area where there's a bunch of stores, right? Not everybody is in an area where either of those is possible, so they might need to do online brick flipping, right? Maybe you have very low startup amount, so you need to start off with used shoes. Whatever the case is, I hope that something in this presentation resonates with you. If you want more in-depth discussions on pretty much everything that I've mentioned today, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. I will have my handles included, so you can definitely follow me on there. And I do have everything on there is free, and it goes over every one of these topics far more in depth than I was able to in this hour time period. So again, just wanted to give you all an overview of kind of how people go about doing this. Like I said, there are people who do only use shoes and make easily 100,000 in sales. There are people who bot and do that too. There are people who do a combination of them, like myself. You can make any of these work for you if you are willing to put in the work, learn what sells, learn the platforms, and just build up a clientele. So thank you for listening. Really appreciate just kind of being here, and really appreciate you all's attention. I know that you could be doing a lot more with your time, and hopefully you've learned a lot from the other presentations. Hopefully you've learned a lot from this. And again, if you ever need anything, just contact me on any of those social media platforms. I do respond to pretty much everybody that reaches out. So definitely let me know. And like I said, just, try to apply this to your situation and enjoy the rest of the conference.